Hey guys, I wanted to go over a quick video just on how I'm going to set up a quarantine tank for a couple different reasons. Number one, just to quarantine the fish that I might introduce into my main tank or any existing tank that I have. And also, right now, I'm kind of interested in setting it up based on an issue that I'm having with one of my discus fish that I want to treat that's having a little bit of issues. So initially I wanted to go with obviously a smaller tank for quarantining, and you can do it in a 10 gallon or 5 gallon depending on what type of fish you're going to keep in there to quarantine. It is a discus. I am trying to grow them out a little bit more to isolate them into this tank, and ideally I went out shopping to get a 20, and after looking around at the Petco and PetSmart, it wasn't something readily available that was, in fact, I went in there today and pretty much everything was off the shelves, and there was a few larger tanks that were there that were already assembled. But as far as 10 gallons and 20s, they're kind of hard to come by. Had to check a couple different stores, and I wound up picking up this Aqueon at Petco was able to get it for the $1 per gallon. So $29 for the tank. So with this tank being in the basement, recently did some remodeling to the basement, and overall I thought about just putting the tank up on a nearby countertop that was close to a sink in this area, kind of where that microwave would be. But it wasn't that much more to just pick up a stand, and I think for just the general appearance of it. I did pick up the stand at PetSmart today, so I had to go 2 different places, and wasn't too bad, about $130 for this stand. One thing I was considering doing was just building it, but as far as spending the time and price of lumber and for the price, wasn't too egregious for that. So with any kind of quarantine tank, I think the expression is less is more. I'm not going to be using any substrate, no decorations. I'll probably throw a lighter background on there just to have a background, but it's going to be bare bottom. I was in the stores today, and I just picked up, kind of impulse bought the piece of Anubias to throw in there, and I'll probably tether that to a piece of driftwood, and that way it helps out a little bit with the water parameters and maybe just gives some sort of a semblance of what the discus is kind of coming from. So it's actually been a few days. I wanted to kind of just go over everything. Kind of came together. Did put that stand together, and actually it's a pretty decent stand for the price point. Has some shelving in there you can kind of move and take out if you want to add like a larger canister filter or whatever you need. Tanks together. I was looking around. I actually had the most trouble finding a background for this thing, and actually, I had went to like 3 different stores, couldn't find one. Obviously, with tanks being sold out and everything, it wasn't that much of a surprise. But I actually found the same paint that I had painted the walls, like a light gray. I kind of entertained throwing that on there. I actually wound up putting it on the background and the bottom, since it's going to be bare. It actually turned out pretty good, I thought. So the heater that I already had, the Aqueon 300 watt, should obviously do the job for a 29 gallon. And I actually ordered this sponge filter from Amazon. I just posted a video on it. It's a dual sponge filter. It has an area where it has 2 trays where you can put some biological media in there, and it has an output on it that actually is pretty neat. It produces like a little bit of bubbles and a little bit of surface agitation. And you can adjust that. You can bring it all the way down, depending on where you wanted it. And I had a few extra piece of media just threw in there. So I know it's a bare bottom tank. I'll kind of explain myself a little bit. So I've been testing the water, and obviously with I feel like the tank's pretty well cycled with ammonium nitrate and nitrite. Nitrogen cycle and everything's in place as far as the parameters that I need. However, the pH was actually pretty high. The pH here out of the tap is about 7.5. So with putting that other discus in here, it's not necessarily close to where I wanted it to be. So I put some Malaysian driftwood in there through that plant that I had on there as well, just to help out a little bit. And also, you got to think that the discus I'm taking out of here, out of my main tank, has been in there for coming up on a year. And it also gives him an area where he can feel safe and tuck in there if he needs to. And I can easily move that piece of driftwood wherever I need in the tank to like vacuum up any detritus or anything that forms within the tank. And with the Malaysian driftwood, as you guys know, is going to lower the pH. So it's kind of a dual purpose there. I did pick that up. It wasn't the intention to decorate the tank or anything, although it doesn't necessarily look half bad in there. So everything's in place other than this light that I also went cheap on. It's Aqua Neat. It's a 30-inch LED. It actually is pretty decent quality. It's actually kind of has those different colored like a pink, red, green, and blue kind of backlight sort of thing. But actually on a white background or gray background or anything lighter, kind of gives it actually kind of a nice ambience to it. So I was actually pretty happy. That was also purchased on Amazon for under $30 for that light. So everything is actually ready to go for the most part. As you see it here for the quarantine. I am going to continue to test the water, see if that pH is going to lower. I just put this in earlier today. It's probably been sitting in there for about 8 hours, the piece of driftwood. So I'm going to test my pH. See, I have a feeling it's going to be lower just because I was testing the bucket. I soaked it for about 3 days in hot water, and I just tested the tap water that was it was soaking with, and it was right around low sevens, almost sub 7. So I think we should be good to go with the tank. Again, just a quick review. The stand that I purchased was probably the biggest expense. 29-gallon, $1 per gallon at Petco. Tank, $28 dual sponge filter, a heater that I already had, and a very cheap light that I'm going to give it a shot, see how it does. So other than that, this tank's pretty much ready. I guess I'll do some future videos on how it works out with treating my discus for possible parasite and wasting that it might have going on, and leaving him in here and trying to grow him back out, get him, because he's a little stunted, just to get him back up to speed with the rest of the discus. So overall, I know it's a little overkill for a quarantine tank, hospital tank, whatever you want to call it. But it does look nice. It kind of, for a little bit more money, it actually looks kind of decent down here. It's not as bare bones as most quarantines would look. So I'm overall pretty happy. I'll keep you guys posted. And again, I just posted a recent video on this dual sponge filter that I threw in there. If you want to check that out. So more videos to come.